It's another 1:30 on a work day. That means it's time to give you updates from the world of business. You're welcome to Business Incorporated. Here is what we have for you on the program today. We'll take a look at the protest in Kenya, update, and what it's doing to businesses and households. And looking inwards, Egypt boosts its local production of wheat. And then we'll take a look at the production and consumption of maize. It doubles in 10 decades. What is happening to prices? Good afternoon once again. I'm Ini John Mekwa. This is Business Incorporated. And here we start right off with the market. We can tell you that at intraday, major equities in Africa were mostly negative, but we still have the NGX looking very green, at least at intraday. It's at 63,856.39. It's lost some of the points there, the index point, but at intraday, 0.16% in the green. South Africa still in the red from yesterday, 0.13%, 76,982.94. We look at all the markets now and see what's happening there. For instance, in Egypt, intraday is red, 0.17% at 17,578.67. Kenya closed yesterday also 1.18%, and they're 111.63. We slide over to the Middle East now, where it's also mostly negative as intraday. Abu Dhabi, starting with that, is in the red, 0.26%, 9,640.10. Dubai follows suit, 0.23%, 3,978.40. And look at other regions now. Saudi Arabia, for one, that's the only positive that we have. Oh, they're too positive. That's marginal anyways for Saudi Arabia, 0.01%, and Qatar. This is not marginal. This is good green, 0.65% at 10,446.11. Let's go to Berlin now. And Netflix, are you a subscriber? Well, guess what you've done to Netflix? Well, they've released their smash earnings reports, even as writers and actors are striking in Hollywood for more on what the second quarter report card means for the global streaming giant. Let's get more details with Cassandra now. Cassandra Sund joins us from Berlin. Hi, Cassandra. Good afternoon. So what are the high points of this report?
Thanks for having me. Well, this was a big earnings report for Netflix. The company added 5.9 million subscribers for the quarter. That comes about a year after it lost nearly 1 million subscribers, and what analysts at the time were attributing to a post-pandemic slump. The company now boasts 238 million global subscribers. Now, revenue, however, came in lower than expectations. Netflix posted $8.2 billion in sales over the April to June period. Don't forget that subscriptions aren't the only way that Netflix makes money. About 10% also comes from advertising.
And well, this comes as Netflix is actually cracking down on users. What's the strategy here?
Netflix had this problem where there would be one account, but it was used by multiple households. Maybe you're still holding on to an ex-partner's Netflix password, or maybe you share with friends or siblings on purpose. I cannot confirm or deny whether I have shared a streaming platform password, but we've all heard of this kind of thing, right? So earlier this year, the company had said that more than 100 million people were sharing accounts and essentially getting to watch for free. So in May, Netflix expanded an existing crackdown on users sharing passwords outside of their immediate household. In most markets, Netflix had introduced shared accounts in which subscribers can add extra users for a little bit of a higher price. At the time, there was lots of online outcry with people saying they would cancel their accounts. But Netflix says that signups are, for now, exceeding cancellations. And I should note the policy is set to expand to all markets worldwide.
Well, Cassandra, I don't know if I also have anybody's account details with me, but what else is happening in the market apart from Netflix?
On the earnings call, it was definitely the elephant in the room. Co-chief executive Ted Sarandos alluded to the dual strikes not being the outcome the company wanted. But one of the figures that was cited in the report was free cash flow, which more than tripled to approximately $5 billion for the year. The reason for more cash being readily at hand, the company cited, quote, lower cash content spend amid the writers and actors strike, which has brought content production to an absolute standstill in Hollywood.
Thank you so much, Cassandra Stont, now for that, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Let's move to Asia now, where markets were mixed on Thursday as investors digest a slew of economic data across the region. China kept its 1- and 5-year loan prime rate unchanged. Now let's look at the numbers in detail. Shanghai Composite almost 1% down at the close of trade, 0.92% at 3,169.52. S&P 500, that's from Australia, marginally up, really close there at 0.02%, 7,250. Now, we look at other numbers in the market right there, the Nikkei 225, all red there at 1.23%, 32,490.52. Kospi also red, 0.31%. The Hang Seng Index at 18,928.02, in the red at 0.13%. We'll move over to the United States now and see what's happening there. U.S. stock futures were mixed on Thursday as traders await the latest batch of corporate earnings reports, including mixed results from Netflix. Netflix is actually moving a lot of markets. The Dow Jones is in the green, 0.16%, 35,307. S&P 500 in the red, 0.12% at 4,591.50. The Nasdaq in the red, even more than 0.5%, 0.67%, 15,853. That's going for the United States. And as we said, shares of Netflix dropped at 6.7% after the streaming giant posted that second quarter earnings we talked about with Cassandra. Tesla, however, tumbled 3.1% after CEO Elon Musk. He's been very active these days, and other executives said on earnings call that vehicle production would slow during the third quarter because of shutdowns for factory improvements. Go to the oil space now, where prices were a little changed on Thursday as a lower than expected drop in U.S. crude inventories and a potentially weaker demand outlook kept investors cautious. September Brent futures climbed 9 cents to $79.55 a barrel, while August U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude gained 11 cents to $75.46 a barrel. The August WTI contract expires today, and September with WTI crude was higher by 6 cents to $75.35 a barrel. Prices fell in the previous session as investors took profits after data showed U.S. inventories fell less than analysts expected. Meanwhile, the U.S. dollar was largely unchanged, edging down 0.1%. The outlook for demand in China, the world's biggest crude buyer, was also unclear as its economy is seen slowing. Gold now, prices advanced to their highest in about 2 months, driven by U.S. dollar's weakness and growing expectations that the Federal Reserve would conclude its aggressive rate hiking cycle at its meeting next week. Spot gold gains 0.2% to $1,981.89 per ounce to close its highest since May 17 at $1,987.39. U.S. gold futures also rose 0.2% to $1,983, while the U.S. dollar index was trading not far off from the 15-month low, while China's yuan shot up after authorities adjusted cross-border financing rules and major state-owned banks were seen selling dollars. A weaker dollar means gold is more expensive for overseas buyers, while lower interest rates tend to be beneficial for bullion as they reduce the opportunity cost of holding the non-yielding assets. Well, from there, let's see what's happening in Kenya. 6 people were killed on Wednesday in clashes between the Kenyan police and protesters, according to a local media report. Tear gas were fired in the capital, Nairobi, and the coastal city of Mombasa at those protesting over high cost of living. Several people were injured after being shot at by the police as they battled the protesters. Schools have been closed in the country's 2 main cities as the 3-day opposition protest began, but these have now been reopened. But let's get more details of what the situation is at this time. Joining us from Nairobi is business reporter Mercy Milanoy. Hi, Mercy. Been a while. How have you been?
I have been well. Thank you for having me.
Great. So what's the situation like now, the protests, the streets between Nairobi and Mombasa?
Well, today is a bit calm. And of course, this is as a result of what happened yesterday. It was a bit hectic yesterday as businesses were shut down. Yesterday, it was a complete ghost town in Nairobi, Mombasa, and some major towns in Kenya. But of course, today things have been a bit calm, and Nairobi, many parts of Nairobi are open. The CBD is open for business, but still we have been able to experience protests in some parts of Nairobi city. That includes Mathare, Wayaki, where this is some of the informal settlements in Nairobi city. So that's where there has been a bit of runaround between protesters and the police. But also, not only Nairobi and Mombasa, we've had also protests that have been reported in the coastal area in Kilifi, in the lakeside area of Kenya, that is Kisumu, the Rift Valley side in Nakuru, Migori, and of course, we've had almost 6 counties that have experienced this, and of course, the central part of Kenya. But today, it's been a bit calm, and of course, we've seen a bit of response, and of course, and a bit of stern warnings from the police, from the Cabinet Secretary of Interior, because the thing that is affecting the most about this protest is that now it opens up for looting. And we've seen businesses that are counting losses of millions. We are seeing supermarkets being looted. We are seeing these people looting supermarkets, they're looting shops, especially in CBD and major areas. So the downside of the protest, as much as yes, people are protesting the high cost of living. Unfortunately, it has opened up space for looting and stealing and destruction of public and private property. And this is why you're seeing the police really being hard on the protesters. But also, there has been a bit of conflict between police and protesters. And we've seen also a bit of the police not handling the protesters too well, which has also seen civil rights societies and, of course, other members and leaders coming out to also reprimand the police to tell them that, as much as you're putting law to order, that also let us not see people getting killed. As of yesterday, about 6 people were killed and over 300 people were arrested who were said to be organizing these protests across the country.
Yeah, it's really sad that, people are protesting the high cost of living, and then people have to lose their lives. And criminals also are taking advantage of it. So it begs the question, how much of this is real and how much of it is political? Because every time we hear this report, it's being reported as an opposition, of the government taking charge. How much of this is really for a better economy and cost of living, and how much of it is political?
Well, truth be told, the cost of living in Kenya has gone high. And of course, a lot of Kenyans feel betrayed by the current administration because during the elections in 2022, the current president, William Ruto, and his team, his party were really campaigning on the back of keeping the promise of a low cost of living, of bringing the basic goods, the prices down. And of course, they were all for the hustler. There's a term called in Kenya hustler. So it's the normal Kenyan who fends for their day-to-day being. And of course, they feel a bit betrayed because this is the promise that was there during the elections. And now come in to now that the administration has taken office, things have really gone high. And of course, this is at the backbone of the finance bill 2023 that has been recently assented by the president and was voted in by members of parliament. And of course, this is some of the things. This particular bill is what has really angered Kenyans, because we find that the cost of fuel increased the VAT from 8% to 16%. And of course, we have the controversial 3% contribution by employees and employers for the affordable housing. So you find that, yes, Kenyans are really justified to go on the streets because, truth be told, the cost of living in Kenya has gone high compared to 2-3 years ago. But also, you see, we also have a bit of issues that came from the last elections where the opposition leader, Raila Odinga, and his team of the Azimio party feel that the elections were not done well, that the current administration sort of stole its way to get the elections. So there are still unresolved issues from the elections. And of course, he promised that there will be demonstrations. and they will picket and they will protest until the judiciary and until justice is served, because they feel that they were supposed to win the elections, but they didn't win. So it's a bit of in between that. Of course, we have a bit of unfinished business with elections, but at the same time, the economy is doing really bad. We have the finance bill that has been put to effect. Some of the things in the finance bill have taken effect. Like right now, the cost of fuel has really gone high. The VAT went from 8% to 16%. Some of the things even are supposed to take effect from July and others September and others in January, is of course the controversial housing, affordable housing, that of course will see employers and employees increase 3%. And of course, as much as the government is trying to increase, money, and of course, it's trying to increase its budget to bridge all its fiscal deficits, many Kenyans feel it's not being done the right way because the cost of living is high, and they're already dipping into the pockets of people who are overtaxed. So part of this is high cost of living, but also we have unfinished business from the elections also.
Yeah, and then Kenya got that 1 billion from IMF just yesterday, approved and all of that. But we'll see how that will trickle down to the people. Thank you so much for your time, Mercy Millinois, business reporter back there in Nairobi, Kenya. Let's take a break now. When we come back from the break, we do have other stories and conversation for you. Join us again. Watching Business Incorporated here on Channels Television. We head to more stories in Africa. China has said that it will invest $36 billion in Algeria across sectors, including manufacturing, new technology, knowledge economy, transport, and agriculture. The agreement was revealed by the president of Angola, indicating that the projects and agreements concluded with the Chinese side are huge and mutually beneficial to both countries. The president was speaking during the meeting in Shenzhen province with representatives of the Algerian community who live in China. President Tebboune has been on an official visit to China since the beginning of the week, meeting with the Chinese leader Xi Jinping on Tuesday. The Algerian president says that Algeria seeks to bring economic relations with Beijing to the level of good historical political relations, and that his visit opened all horizons of investment between the two countries. Now let's talk about maize. We've seen demand and consumption for maize more than double in 2 decades. And of course, this affects the price too. With more demand also comes an increase in price. But let's delve into it more with Adeye Adegusi. He's an analyst with Financial Derivatives Company, joins us for the second time this week. Hi Adeye, good afternoon.
It's good to be back. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you, Adeye. So we see, of course, the demand increase, and we know that maize is an ingredient for a whole lot of things, ethanol, a lot of edibles, and all of that. How has this increase in consumption and demand and price, obviously, what has it done to these other derivatives, that maize is being used for?
No, as you said, the price of maize has soared in the past week alone. Owing to, as we know, the Russia-Ukraine war. And just to give a bit of a background on what has happened, in 2022, following the war, Russia's invasion on Ukraine, global food prices soared to all-time highs. So the prices of wheat and corn and wheat rising to $800 per bushel and $1,000 per bushel, respectively. As both Russia and Ukraine are two of the largest exporters of grains. And then discussions began in 2022 with the two countries, the UN and Turkey, to establish a safe path of export passage from Ukraine to Turkish ports, with Turkish and UN officials monitoring and inspecting the export vessels. Then, after it was agreed, following a series of extensions in November 2022, March 2023, and May, Russia has finally decided to back out of this deal. And Russia has backed out of this deal because he said that some of its demands has not been met, like the removal of sanctions on Russia's agricultural bank, and then also the removal of sanctions on Russia's agricultural bank, and allowing exports of Russia's agricultural tools and machineries, and unfreezing accounts of some Russian companies. And it's important to know that before the announcement, maize prices had fallen to its lowest level since early 2021. But this week alone, we've seen prices rise by almost 15%. And there are also reports of forecasts of higher demand from China as they come out of their coronavirus pandemic, and lower supply from top producers, the US and Argentina, which is also going to weigh on prices. And to know that higher prices of maize will have a direct impact on its byproducts such as ethanol and livestock feed, and also for human consumption as well.
All right, so back home here, we've seen price year on year, I think it's up about 56%. And now the poultry farmers are complaining because maize makes about 70% of livestock feed. And they're even threatening that by next month, August, which is just about a week away or so, they might have to shut down. What does this mean for us? What does it mean for a lot of the food, where we have maize as some of the ingredients?
As you said, poultry farmers are complaining about high prices of maize, but maize accounts for about 70% of the components of livestock feed, which is affecting their produce, and they are threatening to, as you said, they're threatening to shut down operations. And the rise in the price of maize can be attributed to when maize was banned from imports in 2020, as it was part of the commodity list of commodities that were restricted foreign exchange to. And you've seen the price of maize, a ton of maize, increased to 390 naira per ton from 250 last year, and that's had a direct impact on the price of livestock feed, which is now about 10,500 naira for a bag from 7,500 naira a year ago. And now we've seen that these high prices and scarcity of the products has affected poultry farmers, and it will just not also affect the quantity, also the quality of livestock and its byproducts, and the viability of the companies and farmers that are going to the production.
So just briefly now, I don't think this is different from the other challenges that farmers of other crops. Why are we not able to meet up with our demands?
Well, first, it's good to know that corn is one of the major main grain products in Nigeria. But however, farmers go through a lot of challenges, especially in Nigeria. So there's the case of high cost of inputs, fertilizers, seed, which can be partly attributed to the war. Then farmers are also facing high levels of insecurity, especially in the corn belt of Nigeria, which is located in the north. There are reports saying that farmers are having to pay taxes to groups and militants just to have access to their farms.
Yeah.
So, to improve production, the normal solutions are there, providing subsidies providing subsidies for agricultural
farmers,
tools,
yeah. And of course that issue, the issue of security, which applies to other farmers. But thank you so much. We're almost out of time. Adeye Adebusi, analyst, financial derivatives company. Thank you for your time this afternoon. All right, just before we go, we need to tell you that Egypt's strategic reserves of wheat are sufficient for 5 months. Supply Minister made this known. Egypt has procured 3.8 million tons of wheat in the local harvest so far. And this is looking inwards for Egypt. The Supply Minister added that Egypt has strategic reserves of vegetable oils for at least 4 months. As of 2022, wheat production in Egypt amounting to approximately 9.8 million metric tons. So see how they have grown, challenged by mostly the war going on in Ukraine. And a new report has ranked Nigeria as the 90th on the list of countries with the most visa-free access to other nations, while Singapore is number 1, overtaking Japan, that has occupied that space for 5 years. The report was released by Henley and Partners and is based on exclusive and official data from the International Air Transport Association, that's IATA. According to the report, Nigeria ranked 90 alongside South Sudan with visa-free access to only 46 platforms. We need a better ranking, but I guess we'll get it once we work, from inside out. But that's it on the program today. Thank you so much for being a part of Business Incorporated. I'm Ini John Mekwa. Let's do it again tomorrow. Have a great day.